Hello, this is Benjamin from Eclipse IoT. We're back for another video. Today we want to talk about, or I want to talk about the Intel Up² Growth Kit, the Intel Up² board. And more specifically, I want to show you how to turn it into one, an IoT gateway, and two, how to leverage the UPM drivers, the UPM libraries, to easily connect your Up² to a wide variety of sensors and to send the data coming from those sensors to a cloud backend, an MQTT backend in our case. So what we're going to do is run Eclipse Kura on the Up², and we are going to see how you can leverage UPM plugins in your Kura gateway. So first, let's have a quick look at the board. So this is your typical Raspberry Pi-like kind of device. One main difference is that in our case here, we're running on an Intel processor as opposed to ARM. And so it's actually quite nice, especially when you look at running things like Java-based applications, because, it turns out usually you have a slightly better performance out of the box on Intel. And the board is, again, your typical Raspberry Pi-like kind of device, to the point that you can actually use Raspberry Pi hats, shields on top of the Up², which I am here. And you can see that you have several Ethernet ports. You have obviously HDMI, a bunch of USB 3 ports. There's an FPGA on the board as well. And in our case, through the shield, we will be talking, or we will be able to talk to a temperature sensor over here, and this is a noise sensor, an ambient sound sensor. So that's for the board. And so one thing that we want to do is run Kura, right? So Eclipse Kura is there is a nightly build available of Eclipse Kura for the Up². So that's what I'm running here today on the Up². And what I also did actually, and we can see here in the settings of the device, I'm actually running on Eclipse OpenJ9, which is an open source Java virtual machine that happens to be really fast. If you look at my blog post, you will see how fast I mean compared to OpenJDK or even to the Oracle JVM. So it's kind of a big deal because you have an open source fully open source Java virtual machine to power your board and to power Eclipse Kura. So having Eclipse Kura running on my board, one thing I probably want to do is to configure what IoT backend server I want to talk to. In my case, that would be the iot.eclipse.org backend MQTT server using TLS. So that's why I have MQTT-S over here. And next thing I want to do is talk to my drivers, talk to my sensors, sorry, and jumping a bit into what's next. So drivers, right? Kura has this notion of drivers, which is essentially a way to model the capabilities of your the assets that you want to talk to, your sensors, your industrial equipment and whatnot. And that's exactly what I did. Like I took some UPM drivers and I packaged them as Kura drivers, which means that if I want to talk to a TH02 temperature and humidity sensor like I have on my board, I can easily set up a new driver and a new asset, right? So an actual sensor. And so for each asset, you can have channels. So probably the temperature in my case, right, for the TH02, the temperature will be a float, and that's it really, right? So is my asset configured properly? Looks like it is. It's actually getting pretty hot here in Toulouse today. And I can, I wanted just to show you that it's actually live. I can actually put my finger on the sensor and it's getting warmer and warmer. Let's switch to Kura wires now, which is basically my way, or Kura's way, to allow you to do visual programming. So what if so that's going to be my timer, every 100 milliseconds, I want to get data from my TH02 and I want to publish it, right? So this is my publisher. Tac, pretty easy. Well, I should actually wait until I apply my settings, because I want to make sure that my driver is properly, my asset is properly configured, and my publisher is properly configured. Here I want to maybe, or well, let's call it the UP² demo. UP² demo. There we go. Do I want to retain the messages that are going to be published? Probably. And what's happening here? Every 100 millisecond, we get the data from this guy, and we publish it. So how do we know whether the publish is working properly? Let's open you guessed it, MQTT Spy. This is certainly not the first time we're using MQTT Spy in those kind of videos. So opening up the connection to iot.eclipse.org, I know that my gateway is sending data to this particular topic hierarchy. So I can resubscribe. Oh, and this is sending data indeed. So let's see what happens if I want to display the data on a chart. So the data is JSON, so I can use JSON path to introspect or to explore the contents of my Kura payload, and that happens to contain a temperature. Does it work? Yes, I guess it does. Let's see over the last minute, and looking at my board, putting my finger, and that was easy, right? And so we could certainly and pretty easily do the same with other drivers, right? So do I want to connect to my loudness, ambient sound sensor? Well, yes, probably, right? And obviously this is going to be pretty easy. This is really similar. And so my loudness sensor, once I create it, in terms of channels, I probably have something like the noise, right, or the loudness, and that's the only thing I have. That's why it's interesting to leverage the UPM drivers, because they already have like well-defined, well-modeled capabilities, and we can this can surface, this can be accessed through Eclipse Kura as well. So that's for my other asset, and obviously I could switch to Kura wires and display my asset in Kura wires and get the data from it, etc., etc. So why should you care? Well, a couple things. Running Kura on top of OpenJ9, it's pretty cool. It's faster, it's 100% open source, and leveraging UPM. Well, UPM drivers are already abstracting out all the complexity of understanding the metrics. Like you may know that when you access sensors, you may need to do some conversions, some like particular workflows to interact with the sensors. It's already taken care of, and what's already taken care of as well is being platform independent, right? So if I were to run Kura with my UPM drivers on a Raspberry Pi, this would work just the same. So that's pretty cool, and you can get all the code for this demo on GitHub. And if you have any questions, comments, use the comments on YouTube or on my blog, and we'll talk again soon. Bye bye.